Weighing in with soybeans and a baby show straight out of Norburn, Missouri, we have Soybean Festival. From Hayward, Wisconsin, at 73 years young with the world's largest muskie statue, put it together for Muskie Fest. Finally, packing a punch with fire dancing and a pet costume contest, the Roseau, Minnesota Fall Harvest Fest. One of these festivals could win $100,000 in the Cenex Hometown Throwdown. You decide. Cast your vote at CenexHometownThrowdown.com. Cenex, powered locally.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Savaged Brief.
Doing very, very well. First and foremost, I want to thank the audience and the listeners from yesterday that tuned in. That episode we did prior to that was phenomenal. We also have another episode that's going to be launching very, very soon, which an episode that myself, Soslan, which should be airing on Spotify in the next several hours here, about another 2 hours. So you're going to want to check Spotify when that drops. But Sos, I want to get into this this topic here with Ron DeSantis now facing extreme amounts of criticism from the far left of busing migrants that are literally pouring into the state of Florida, and he wants to send them up to Martha's Vineyard. What's your thoughts on that, man?
I think it's fantastic. I think I think it's only respectable because I thought they're all sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. If you're all welcome, then you should all welcome and open them. But be prepared because the immigrants that are gonna come across, they're gonna be shipped are pretty much mostly all men. So be prepared for what is to come.
Yeah. And, Ron DeSantis made a quick little speech and, rebuttal against that. And Ron DeSantis says, listen, I'm a governor and I'm literally practicing and following the rule of law of this nation and country. You come here illegally, well, you can't stay here. He's facing criticism, and the governor of Massachusetts up in Martha's Vineyard, New Hampshire. I always got to get myself on that. The governor up in New Hampshire there is saying to Ron DeSantis, if you choose Martha's Vineyard out of every place in the country, why are you choosing Martha's Vineyard? And Ron DeSantis said, listen, I'm not having illegal immigrants in my state and have them do whatever the fuck they please. You know what I mean, Sas?
Yeah.
So, but it's terrible, man, that, we've become a nation where, we're allowing all these immigrants to come into our country and there's no screening process. There's no any of that being, fortified here. There's none of that, and I'm so glad that I live in a state, such as Texas. Texas is doing the same thing. Greg Abbott just put a small little briefing during a press conference the other day saying that, if Biden's not going to do a damn thing about it, I'm going to do something about it. They come into the country, I'm going to send them right back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I don't know. This whole thing has to be. We have to do something. If they're crying about like, well, we're all a sanctuary city and we're all sanctuary states, then why don't you really open them up? Let your talk let your yeses be yeses and your noes be noes, and maybe allow your state to take the burden of making sure that they're taken care of. Allow your state to take care of the burden of. Thinking that, well, if you truly are openly and accepting, and aren't they being discriminatory when they say that they're not them there? Like Mayor Lightfoot is sending them, she's busting them out in conservative rural areas of Illinois. Isn't that? Aren't you being this in that sense? So you're profiling them, which is absolutely wrong. Why don't they just go back home then? Why don't you just pay them for a flight to go back to where they originally came from? Stop demographically changing this country, and just because you want votes, You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, Sauce. Here's the thing. Mayor Lightfoot up there in Chicago is literally, she's like we mentioned yesterday in the show with the what the hell was it? The narrative clause. They're playing that narrative. Where the Democrats are pushing that fight, mentality, and the Republicans are pushing the hope mentality. They want that fight, Sauce. They want that. You mentioned votes. Of course, they want votes. That's the only way they're going to be able to win is to get these illegals to come into the country. That's why they need the votes for November.
And well, they need the. Wow. What's about to happen is, I mean, and speaking of votes in November, did you hear what's been happening in the railroad in Midwest Wisconsin?
No, I didn't read up on that one. Can you explain that?
Yes, there's a massive railroad strike that's about to damage the economy by $2 billion. And you have 30% of the railroad shut down because they're on strike because of the Inflation Reduction Act. So what happened is that it was all over the news and it's not being covered. So Biden's just going to send buses and planes to pick them up. Well, last time I checked, you can't put crude oil inside of a plane and you can't put gasoline inside of a semi. I mean, you got to have railroad tracks and you got to start treating the Amtrak people with respect. And it's like, if you want things to happen, you're gonna about to see prices in the Midwest and now that across America, the prices that you've never seen before, and you're about to see shortages to the levels that you've never seen before. And again, this is another problem that the Biden administration has brought upon, and that this is another problem that was self-inflicted, and they refuse to accept the reality that it was their idiotic policy. Poor policy failure, that they refuse to look at the railroad track. And the only reason why they're on strike now is because of the Inflation Reduction Act, which goes after the railroad system. It goes after the railroad. And that's why they're going on a massive strike, where 30% of them are on strike. So you're about to see some really bad things happening in America.
Sauce, the railroad is folks, the railroad is. Exactly, Sauce. The railroad is the foundation and the principle of this country. Yeah. Okay, if anybody does not realize how important our railroad system in this country is, I highly suggest you pick up a history book and read it, because the railroad, if we lose the railroad system, right, we lose major freight that needs to be transported from state to state, from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the north to the south. We lose it all, folks. Do you know how much? I live in the state of Florida, right? Do you know how much railroad trains that come by on a given hour just in my section of Florida? There is a train, Sauce, that goes from Miami to Jacksonville, Florida, on the East Coast of Florida. There's a train that goes by at least 25 times a day. And it's carrying freight. We have a huge role and a huge presence of oranges in the state of Florida, right? 90% of the oranges come out and ship out of the state of Florida. We have plants, called Tropicana. There are Tropicana, freight cars filled with oranges that go by like hour by hour. If that affects that, do you know what that does? No more oranges being shipped to Walmart or other little stores. None of that happens. Yeah. Are these people idiots, Sauce? Literally.
Well, hey, the plus side is at least the baby formula doesn't have to go down to the southern border anymore, and that the illegal immigrants are guessing. I'm guessing they're gonna have to find another alternative to bus them or to buy a train ticket. I guess they can't buy a train ticket because did you know that the Chicago Union Station is shutting down their train services right now? That the only reason why they're doing it is because they're afraid that Americans are going to uprise, so they've shut down Amtrak as of right now because they don't want people uprising and being going after the trains and after the conductors.
Who ordered that, Sauce? Was that Mayor Lightfoot that put that order out?
Yeah, and Tony Evers, governor of Wisconsin.
Fucking A, I'm telling you.
See,
but
And
Yeah.
the sad part is that it's supposed to, so what's going to happen is stay tuned for tomorrow, because tomorrow the Biden administration has till tomorrow to figure this whole problem out, and the problem to that is that I don't get how I've never met an administration that truly hates this country, is willing to compromise our railroad system, is willing to undermine and demonize people that are hardworking, and willing to give out handouts to your military. Now, for instance, not only the military, but the Biden administration urged our active military members to apply for food stamps.
I seen that come out today in the Florida Today newspaper.
What do you expect a mom that is has two kids, a family that has two kids that are barely making ends meet? What the hell do you expect them to do?
I can relate. I have some family members, a brother of mine, which I won't label his name on the show for privacy issues, but he tells me all the time. He's stationed up in California, and he told me that some of the military up there are struggling more than ever under this Biden administration.
Yep.
That he sees more and more, military members, colleagues of his, that are applying for the first time for food stamps.
Yeah, or committing suicide.
This nation is going into a melting pot. It's terrible.
And it's I don't know, a lot of it's going to depend. So it's going to be interesting and you can see the market, and you can see the stock market not reacting to that very well. Where the stock market's not reacting to the railroad strike very well in that. So Monday's going to be interesting, and this weekend. So
yeah, you mentioned a little bit of the stock market on yesterday's pre-recording. We got into it with Joseph. I don't know, Sas. If the stock market crashes, what happens next? The stock market is very heavily tied to the economy. A lot of people think it's different. It's very heavily tied into the economy. Your stocks go, the economy goes.
Yeah.
That's what makes the country, right?
Yeah. And not only that, but if your stocks go, your livelihood goes, because that's what a lot of people depend on, the stock market. A lot of these businesses depend on the market, but when you and here's why the market's not doing very well, is because the amount of spending that Joe Biden has done is finally catching up to the market. The inflation rates are finally catching up, because we've been overspending, and we're about to spend another $500 billion on this idiotic, the student loan forgiveness. We're about to spend another $500 billion. So
yeah, there was this. Yeah, hold on, Sas. There was a segment here. I don't mean to cut, but I got to get this in real quick. There was a segment yesterday. You remember, Sas? I plugged that into yesterday's pre-recorded, which that episode, folks, will air later this afternoon with Soslan, Joseph, and I on that very, 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 very good episode we did. I highly suggest you tune into that, because there's a lot of key factors we labeled on that show that's now being plugged into this bonus episode. The video, Sas, that I plugged into, where Joe Biden says, you just mentioned billions of dollars being poured in, right? He just poured in another almost $1 trillion, another bailout to the aviation industry, airports.
How's that going to help? How's that going to help people get their feet back on? How's that going to help?
It's not going to help. You know why he's doing it, Sas? You know why he's doing it? It's not going to help.
For votes.
I can tell you, for votes, yeah. But he's more worried about the freaking the presence of the airport. Oh, it doesn't look pretty enough. That's what it is. Pretty. I'm telling you.
Yeah, this country is in a state of. I'm just left speechless. I don't know. We got a lot of it's going to depend on this railroad strike, though. A lot of it's going to depend on it, and hopefully, what I said with my letter to the editor. I can't emphasize the importance of getting out and stop being complacent. I'm really pushing to re-elect Ron DeSantis, allowing all these enough is enough of the radical put America last policies, and that you're willing to take away military benefits so that you're a legal immigrant that's getting bused to Chicago and getting bused to like God knows where. You're allowing them to like you're placing them for anyone else. It just shows you the deterioration, and it shows you like, well, if you're so patriotic, then it shows you the lack of patriotism of this country, and that you're willing to compromise this nation and what it stands on over other people that are flooding in this country, and just you're giving two middle fingers at the founding fathers and what they founded on, the Constitution that's written, the laws that they wrote, the amount that's stating that, you know what, to become an American citizen, here's what you have to do, here's how much money you have to pay. And now it's just, I mean, it's sad because
it's frustrating, Sas. I could see it. I can hear it in your voice. You're frustrated, just like every other American.
I'm not frustrated. I'm pissed.
You're a little bit of both. But Sas, I'm going to let you go, buddy. It sounds like you're busy. Did you want to plug in anything? I know that you had a really busy day up there where you're at.
Yes. So I have a very special guest. Her name is Monica Kelsey, the founder and CEO of Safe Haven Baby Drop Boxes. We did a 2-part series. It will air today and tomorrow. And we're going to have Pam Stenzel as well, a very renowned Christian woman speaker out of Woodburn, Indiana. She's also going to be airing. We're going to have a podcast, not tomorrow, but I think on Sunday, where we're going to do an episode with her. And it's very blessing that we have the opportunity to meet. And so that's a big thing to happen.
Yeah, and it seems like you told me off the air you got to tour the facility, huh? How was that? Yeah, it seems like it. Sas, we're going to depart, buddy. Safe flight back home, and we'll talk later, buddy. See you later, man.